The time between harvesting the grapes, aging the grapes, fuck. Welcome back to Rewind with bschwitty, because you had me at hello. Today we're going to be talking about wine labels, specifically US wine labels. And since I live in California, I have an abundance of California wine labels sitting around, so we're going to talk about this one in particular. So wine labels can be tricky. We learned on our first Wine Down Wednesday that they can be deceptive, but let's make sure that you know what's going on here so that you can make an informed decision when you go out and buy wine or just talk about wine in general. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do here. Educate. That's what Mondays are for. That's why I downed 3 bottles of wine last Monday just for you. Not a personal thing. Alright, so today we're focusing on US wine labels. Here is a 2011 Reserve Petite Sirah from Castoro Cellars. Sorry it's so shiny. I'm still figuring out my studio lighting. But what we have here is a basic wine label, and it's going to have everything that we're going to talk about today. So, let's first start with some basic vocabulary. You're going to want to know what a vintage is. Vintage is the year that the grapes were harvested. On this label here, it says 2011. So that's not when the grapes were put in the bottle. It's not when the grapes were magically placed on the shelves. It's when the grapes were picked from the vine. Since we're talking American wine, it would be in the fall. Since we're talking about American wine, we're talking about September, October generally, which means the end of the year or fall in the Northern Hemisphere. The time between harvesting the grapes, fermenting the grapes, aging the grapes, and then bottling the grapes, or wine, is very varied. So the reason why there is a number on a label is because it helps you know when the grapes were first started to be processed into wine. Vintages on the bottle help you profile what the grapes are like. Remember, there are 4 key things that help you determine the flavor of a wine. The first is the growing conditions for the grape, the varietal of the grape itself, the yeast used to ferment it, and how it was aged. So we're focusing on that first part. If you look at a vintage, it'll let you know how the weather affected the grapes for that year. Next up is the term reserve, which doesn't legally mean anything. Generally, it's implied that it's a select barrel or selection of grapes, or that more care was put into a reserve wine than a non-reserve wine. But it literally can mean anything under US law. And like I said, there's an implied meaning that it is a better selection, better barrel selection. In general, it means it's better than the standard offering a winery has to give. Following that, we have the viticulture area. For this one, it says passerobles. That's the AVA. As some of you savvy viewers out there might know, the passerobles AVA was divided into somewhere between 11 and 14 sub-AVAs a year or two ago, but this vintage was bottled before that happened. What an AVA is an American viticultural area. An AVA is a specific wine growing region within a state or county that has been registered with the federal government. It has its own climate and weather conditions that kind of give you an idea of what the grapes will be like from this region. This started back in the 80s to kind of copy the European standards. Like the French have the AOC, the Italians have the DOC, and the Spanish have the DOs, which are all very similar ideas, except some of them have stricter definitions of what grapes you can grow and stuff like that. Following that, we're going to look at the composition of the label. At the top, we have the producer, which here is Castoro Cellars. We saw already that it is a reserve. This is from 2011. It is a Petite Sirah, which is a varietal. And it is from the Shell Creek Vineyard, if I can read this correctly. And again, from Paso Robles. And it is estate grown, as they like to say on there. The other thing is on the back of the label or on the side of the label. Generally, it can be anywhere as long as it's on the front or the back, but you'll see that it says the alcohol percentage, which is very important. You, by law, need to know exactly how much alcohol is in a container that you're purchasing. And on the back, generally, it'll have the similar information that's on the front, as well as the descriptive flavor text and sometimes the UPC. But, like I was saying, what is important is all on the front except on this bottle, which the only other important thing is the alcohol percentage on the back. Some other important things to note: if the label, like this one, says it's a single varietal, it has to be made up of 75% of that varietal. That means at least 75% of the wine in the bottle here is Petite Sirah. What it also means is the producer doesn't have to disclose what the other 25% of the wine is. So there could hypothetically be Syrah in this as well. I don't know. Syrah or other varietals that may help boost the flavor of the wine within the 25% limit that you're allowed to have. It's not designed to be deceptive. It's just trying to keep you, the consumer, from overthinking what's in your bottle. If an AVA is specified, 85% of the grapes in the wine have to be from that AVA. So at least 85% of the grapes in this bottle are from Paso Robles. But as we know, it's from a specific vineyard, so a specific vineyard within that AVA, so we don't have to guess. If a vineyard is mentioned, like it is on this label, 95% of the wine has to be from that vineyard. Also, along that same vein, if a vintage is specified, 2011, 95% of the grapes in the wine have to be from that vintage. Now, alcohol percentage, that's a little bit trickier. So there's different categories and tax brackets for table wine and whatever this is categorized as. California wines, most New World wines, are going to have a higher alcohol percentage, somewhere above 12. The cutoff point is 14%. 14% to 17% is the next bracket, whereas table wines are considered wines from 7% to 13.999. And anything above 17% is considered a dessert wine. I guess this is just wine. But what you need to know is that for those table wines with the alcohol from 7% to 13.9% alcohol by volume, you can have an adjustment of 1.5% up or down from what it actually is in the bottle. Now, if you're in that second bracket, the wine bracket, from 14% to 17%, you can have a 0.5% variance. Again, not a big deal. It's alcohol. We knew we were getting alcohol in the first place. These are just fun facts for you to tote to your wine friends. If the terms produced by or bottled by are anywhere on the label, 75% of the grapes have to be processed at that facility. So that was a lot of information to take in. hopefully you learned something, and maybe it'll help you figure out what exactly you're buying next time you're in the store looking at wine. That's it for me on this Monday. Thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. Seriously, give that subscribe button a click. Seriously, the subscribe button's over here. I appreciate everyone that's been following this and watching, and to have you as subscribers and to just have you as viewers. I really appreciate it. I hope you're enjoying these. If you have any ideas for future episodes, leave them in the comments below. Let's talk about wine labels. Do you have any other questions? Just ask. I'll see you on Wednesday for another Wind Down Wednesday. This is bschwitty, not knowing how to sign off.